And welcome back, everyone, to Cyrus Webb Presents here in Columbus, Ohio. So glad you all could join us today at the Werner House. We're here for Colette Harrell's Literary Brunch. We're excited about that, and we're meeting a lot of great authors along the way, including our next guest. We're excited to welcome author and poet Michele LaMar-Thomas to our broadcast today. She's the author of this book you guys can see here on the Amazon side. We're going to highlight it for you guys. Brown Girl Rising is the title of the book. You'll see the paperback edition is there for $12.99, and you can be able to get the Kindle edition for $9.99. We're going to talk to Michele not only about the writing of the book, but also her love of poetry and words. We are simulcasting our broadcast today, so we do want to welcome those tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, as well as on X. If you guys have any questions or comments for Michele, make sure you guys do put those in the comment section. Michele, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Look, it's our pleasure. So first of all, I want to talk about this experience for you. What has it been like for you to do what you love as an author and poet and to share that with us?
Oh, it's been great. Writing poetry has always been a love of mine. And so my book, Brown Girl Rising, a poetry memoir, is a culmination of poetry I've written throughout my life from the age of 16 was my first poem that I wrote. And then it's just been I've had a lot of poetry that I just kept around the house, not doing anything with it on paper, in notebooks. And so I decided once my life kind of settled down some that I wanted to write this book.
Love that. And it's a great collection for those. I mean, I'm just meeting Michele for the first time, but I feel like I know her from the book. You talk about family, you talk about faith. You talk about being able to persevere. Did you know going in that you want to be able to touch on different things that not only you had been through, but also that other people could connect with?
I think I did. I did. Gosh, life is just you evolve all through life. And so there are times when I was very introverted. And so I found that putting my thoughts and words on paper, gave me my voice. And so as I got older, I became more extroverted and started to have, knowing who I was, really.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it started out knowing who I was in Christ, where I started to put the fears aside, the self-doubt, or worrying about what others would think about me putting myself out there. Because when you put your poetry out there, you're really revealing a lot of yourself and a lot of your heart. And so I decided that I wanted to have themes at the end. When I started putting them together, I said, well, this needs a theme here. We need a theme, here dealing with death or grief or evolving. Becoming is one of my biggest loves of this book, finding myself and just being who I am right now.
Yeah. What has that been like for you? One of the things I always have found fascinating, Michele, when I'm talking to authors, poets, or creatives, anyone that's doing what they love, is one, the joy of doing it, but also the overcoming of fear of it. Because I think for a lot of times, like with anything, we fear what we don't know. And of course, as a writer, a storyteller, we don't know how people are going to respond. What helped you to get over that fear? Or was fear one of the things you had to get over?
There's a quote that I fell in love with. You must do the thing you think you cannot do, Eleanor Roosevelt. And so I started becoming more, like I said, extroverted in my 40s. And I started doing things that I was afraid of doing in my 40s and 50s. I think my greatest successes have come in my 40s, 50s, and 60s. I ran a half marathon in my 50s.
Oh, wow.
I started a book club in my, 60s. I was, just joining the meetup, getting to know people, to meet people and to become part of a group without people I didn't know, and just doing things that, okay, you're afraid to do this. Even speaking, I remember in college, I dropped out of speaking because I was just afraid to take that class.
Yeah.
So I had to do the things that I thought I couldn't do. And so that helped me. And to know who I was as a person and in Christ has helped me to overcome a lot of fears.
Love that.
So really, I don't care too much about, we all care about what people think of us, but I don't take it to heart. I know, who I am, and I'm going to put my voice out there because a lot of people are going through what we go through, so I thought this book could touch to everybody's experience.
Well, our relationship with words, I think, is so powerful. And I think realizing the power that words have, I think that's becoming more and more clear to us, especially in all aspects of our lives. When did you realize personally the power of words?
I guess as a young person, I fell in love with poetry when I started reading. Growing up, we always had a set of encyclopedias. My grandparents, we always had the bulletin, newspapers in our home. the Philadelphia Inquirer, books. I remember getting my first book in the first grade from the bookmobile in Philadelphia. So I fell in love with words when I came across a book called, a poem called I Have a Little Shadow. And just the beats and the rhythm and the sound of it just made me, I was in awe. And so, that was in elementary school and in middle school. It wasn't until I reached high school that I started to become familiar with poetry by African American literature. And so I started, my favorite all time is Langston Hughes. So I started trying to emulate him. So my first poem was a poem I wrote in Virginia while visiting my great grandmother. And that's how I got started. And so then I just kept on, throughout life. But like I said, I've always had them on paper. I didn't want to do anything with them. I had 4 children. I was kind of busy. So I decided, okay, now my children are grown. I want to put my work out there. I want to get these poems together. And I kept writing even throughout that whole process. I was adding other poems to the repertoire that I had. So.
Wow. And now we all get to share them. I'm going to read one of my favorite poems, if you don't mind, from the book. Again, the book is called Brown Girl Rising, as you guys can see there. For those joining us on Amazon, I have the Kindle edition highlighted for you guys, but you can also get the paperback as I have here for $12.99. Again, for those joining us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, you'll see the link that bring you over. I love the poem, When Will I Be Seen? And I'd like to read that for our audience. War, an ugly thing, uglier still the terror debased tongues bring, eager to elect my fate, racial tribalism, fueled by fear and hate, denied clear access, my scorned brown skin, the ubiquitous test, wintry the soul, shunning fellow man. I wait and ponder, will I live to be seen for who I am? Before I tell you what I liked about so much about that poem, what inspired it?
Okay, I was inspired to write that poem when I guess Moscow and Russia invaded Ukraine. In the mass exodus, people were trying to get out of the cities that they were, bombarding. And I remember reading an article where those who looked like me, looked like you, had a really tough time at it. And I was like, okay, everywhere we go, there is that form of fear and racism. I don't care where it is. And so, you wouldn't think that there were Blacks over in Ukraine, but we're all over. And so from people from Africa going to school there. And so there was a group of people who had a hard time getting out. And they were kind of pushed back, to make sure others were going, those who were people who were born and raised in those cities in Ukraine. And so it kind of touched my heart and it kind of made me angry at the same time. Yeah. So that's what inspired it.
I remember those same accounts. Let me tell you when I got to that poem, When Will I Be Seen, what I thought about is that's why I brought up earlier about the power of words. How a lot of times we say things, to people talking about their skin color, their features, and not realizing what those words do. What we're doing with our tongue with other people. But also, even I think when you talk about the skin, I think there's so many people who do not feel comfortable in their own skin. They don't, because of what society tells them they should look like. So that's what I was thinking about. This poem to me was all about the importance of not feeling invisible. Right. But I love the fact that for you, and that's the great thing about words, right? That this was kind of came from a place of literal war, but there's so many people that even inside their homes feel like they're doing battle, right? Talk to us about that. When you have crazy people like me who don't know you, who read your poems and create their own stories, what has that been like for you to hear what other people get from your work?
Well, actually, I haven't had anything negative come my way. They may have thought it, but I haven't had anybody tell me that, okay, I don't like this. They may... I've had more positivity than I've had any negativity. And that's brought me a sense of joy because my goal is to, even we all want to sell our books and have them be bestsellers. Of course. But I want it to reach people who are hurting, who need to build on their faith to find out who they are. And just to see that, this is this is not just one person's experience, even though it's a poetry memoir, everyone can relate to it.
Yeah. Such a great point. For those who are just tuning in, welcome. You're watching Cyrus Webb Presents here at the Werner House here in Columbus, Ohio. I'm here with author Michele LaMar-Thomas. We're talking about this book you guys see here, Brown Girl Rising. It's available here on Amazon, of course, in paperback, as well as a Kindle edition as well. We are simulcasting our broadcast, so welcome to those tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. Glad you all could be with us. If you guys have any questions or comments for Michele, make sure you guys put those in the comment section. I want to widen out the conversation for a moment, Michele, and talk about the joy of being a published author. What has that been like for you to be able to hold a book in your hand, to see other people with your book and know that that's yours?
It's been great. It's been exciting. I think this book was published a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And so, like I said, all of my triumphs have been later in life. And so I look at that too as saying, age is relative because, people are dealing with ageism now. And, I've faced that in some, times in my life. And so, it doesn't matter where you start as long as you start. It doesn't matter if you're young, if you're middle-aged, if you're older, there's always something to do. And we just have to embrace ourselves and not see ourselves as who we are, not who people say we are. Like Kamala Harris said, don't let others tell you who you are. You show them, who you are.
Yeah. So. Has it been an exciting thing for you to show people by example what they can do by publishing this book?
Yes, it has. I am a retired school teacher. I've been retired for a year. And I started a poetry club in my elementary school. There was nothing, for the young girls to do. And, and I welcome young men too. So it started out with, boys and girls. But it was just enlightening just to have the children see that they had a voice and that there was no right or wrong in which you're writing. We do have forms, but just to put your feelings on paper first, and just to enjoy that. And then they got to, recite their poetry once a year during Black History Month. And so it's just great to have, to be embraced by young people and to be a model for people who are, who look like me and who don't, because it's, even when my book dealing with death and grief, that's something that we all experience, not just, brown and Black girls. And so, and finding out who we are. And so it's been a great joy just to be able to start a poetry club at my school. It lasted for about 3 years, and to just go around, and this is the first for me, just to do venues and meet people and talk about my book. This is the first time I've been on simulcast or live. So
really,
yes. So I'm not a professional, but I'm enjoying it.
Look, we would not have been able to. I didn't know that. Seriously, I didn't know.
It's my first book and the first time actually.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you. We're glad to have you. The last piece I want to read, since she brought it up, I want to read your piece for such a time as this, Kamala. Okay. If that's okay.
Yes, sure.
And then you can tell us about what inspired it. Refined beauty, gracious, creators love design, adorned with jewels, emeralds, rubies, evolving, flowers bloom, nature claps her hands. Brown girl, intelligent and strong, fashioned around obstacles, her will unbroken, born for such a time as this. Lay hold the crown of destiny, lighting the way for our daughters. Now, I have to first say, this is on page 37 for those who are. I mean, you could not have known when this book came out
exactly
how 2024 would turn out. But what has that been like for you to reflect on that poem, and what inspired you to write it?
Oh gosh, it's been great. And then I started sharing with people I know. Hey, did you know I wrote this poem? And before Kamala Harris even thought about running for president. And so just the fact that she was running for vice president at the time, and the way that her strength and her dignity, the way she carries herself. And I see that in, all of our women. We've had this various tropes about Black women, about our strength and about our voice and about our hair and about, just a lot of things. And so I just wanted to put it out there how I felt as a Black woman, seeing another strong Black woman coming into her own, and that our trials and our tribulations, they do give us strength because we have so much to overcome, you know, as Black women. And so I just wanted to, and that's the way I felt too for myself. And so when I'm speaking about her, I'm also speaking about me, and I'm also speaking to you, other women out there who have faced adversity, and just to come through and be a light to other people.
So what is your hope as people are finding out about Brown Girl Rising? Our audience here will be able to get their copy. What do you hope when they pick it up, they will learn about you?
That what I've been through, my values, my family, who I love dearly. My grandparents had a big part in my life. My mother teaching me to play jacks. That's one of my favorite poems too, about her teaching us to play jacks on the kitchen table, my sister and I. And just knowing that you can overcome adversity. You can put yourself out there and be vulnerable, because if you're not vulnerable, how will other people know that you've gone through the same thing they're going through? So I just want them to pick up the book and relate to it, not just about me, but how it relates to them, especially with death and in politics. I have some other politics, political poems rather, that I've written that's not in a book. But my next book, I decided to just do. It's going to be called. I think I'm probably playing around with the title.
Right.
Surrounded by His Grace, and it's basically it's a devotional, and it touches on some of the same themes in this book about faith and just trials and overcoming and rising up and just being who God made you to be, just finding out who you are in Christ and loving yourself. So
love that. Well, great conversation with you, Michele.
Thank you.
Glad to have you on with us. Again, everyone, Michele LaMar-Thomas has been our guest. Brown Girl Rising is the book. Again, it's available here on Amazon, the paperback as well as the Kindle edition. Michele, let our audience know, how can they stay connected with you?
Okay, you can connect with me on my website, Poetry and Ponderings at MicheleLaMar-Thomas.com. I'm on Instagram, Michele LaMar-Thomas Writes, and I'm on Facebook, but that's not that's a personal account. So.
Okay, is it? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, looking forward to spending some time with you here at the brunch, and definitely looking forward to our next chat together.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed the interview.
Thank you. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents here in Columbus, Ohio at the Werner House for Colette Harrell's Literary Brunch. Look for more conversations coming up. Also, make sure you guys check out my social media for more pictures and behind the scenes as well. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.